Hey Denchbags, what's going on? It's Len and Remixes here, and today I'll be reviewing the debut EP from PYLOT. This one is called Shadowtask. Now, I hate the EP's name, but that's beside the point. PYLOT is one of Monstercat's most mysterious artists. His identity is yet to be revealed. In addition to that, there's been quite a story going on with PYLOT revealing little diary entries for every single release that he's done. And I can say with pure confidence that I have never really been much of a PYLOT fan. When PYLOT was first releasing on Monstercat, he was kind of in a little bit in that synthwave vein, also in the indie dance vein as well. Not really pushing it too much, in my opinion. I've in my articles in Your EDM, I've mentioned this as well. You know, like I've never really been that big of a fan of PYLOT. I really don't think he was pushing boundaries too much. And honestly, with this EP, I feel like this is the closest he's come. I really like the work on this a lot. And I'm not even using that loosely. I literally feel like this EP is a collection of PYLOT's best work to date, with maybe a couple exceptions. I have liked a couple of his releases in the past. For example, Blurred Vision was one that I started to like a lot, especially after Synthwave seemed to blow up in 2016. Of course, Monstercat's been signing a little bit more of it with artists like No Taker, and then of course there's Survive, who really brought this revival to Synthwave. More artists recently like Ifixa have been getting into the genre, so obviously Synthwave is becoming like a new thing in the electronic dance music scene. Obviously, it was still a thing quite some time ago, but it seems to have brought quite a bit of a revival in 2016. That's probably thanks to the Stranger Things series on Netflix blowing quite a bit up, and most of that soundtrack is Synthwave, of course, being led by Survive. Of course, we only saw PYLOT really push heavily that Synthwave sound a couple of different times, primarily on Blurred Vision, as well as Flashbacks, which was the second single he released on Monstercat. In the past, PYLOT was always one of those artists that whenever he released, I wasn't really strongly looking forward to any of the content that was coming. And with this EP, I was kind of expecting the same situation. In fact, I didn't even listen. I had the opportunity to listen to this EP before it released, and I didn't until release day. And boy, I can say I was very surprised at the result. This EP, like I already mentioned, some of the most solid work PYLOT has ever done. And I feel like, in a large part, this EP was pretty conceptual as well. There's a great story to go along with it. I might have to link that one in the description so you guys can go check that out. Now, I don't want to say I'm absolutely in love with the content here, because obviously there are a couple moments on this EP that I thought were pretty dry, but for the most part, I want to say I am very impressed with the content that PYLOT has pushed out with this, and I can definitely say I'm a legitimate fan following the release of this. When you look at Shadowtask, you really have to think about the places where PYLOT is really stepping up as a producer. There's a lot more electric guitar in here, which I thought really worked. It really gives it more of that 80s rock vibe. This EP almost sounds like it could be the soundtrack to like Blade Runner or something. This is just a lot of really cool content. I can definitely hear some serious 80s influence, and you'll probably hear me mentioning that a few different times. For example, on the track Data, probably I wouldn't say it's my favorite track on the EP. In fact, I wouldn't say I really loved it that much at all, but I thought it one of the more 80s influenced tracks on the EP, let's put it that way. But I thought a spot on this song that was really lacking was in terms of the vocal department. I thought he could have, PYLOT, could have thrown an 80s influenced vocal on this and made the track sound quite a bit better. Instead, most of the track is filled with this really repetitive vocal chop, which made the song sound pretty dry to me. Other than that, I thought it was a solid work. The EP's intro, of course, Caine, is one of the faster guitar-driven tracks on the EP, and I really love this one. What a great way to kick off the EP as well. Honestly, instantly got me hooked. What a great way to kick off. Man. Kind of from the start of the song, it almost sounds like it's going to be one of those slower synthwave tracks like Locke on the EP, and of course in PYLOT's past like Blurred Vision. Kind of sounds like it's going to shape up that way, then it really speeds up, kicks into double time, and really goes for that rock edge. And man, yeah, I think it really paid off for PYLOT. Like I already mentioned, Locke, one of those slower synthwave jams. Of course, I really love this one. I really like when PYLOT in general goes in that direction, and this is the only really track that kind of reminds me of that, so of course it's going to be one of the standouts for me. Let's talk about the track Clova, though, and it seems like this track is a lot of people's least favorites on the EP, and I can definitely understand why. There's not a lot of really experimentation here and there. It's kind of a boring beat. beat, really backed by these guitar chords that I really don't think are anything too special. Song isn't like overly repetitive or anything, but really like I said, it is driven by the guitar, and the guitar really isn't doing much. Like on tracks like the first one and the last one, I feel like the guitar is really a driving force, and with this one, I just feel like those rhythms really aren't doing much. Other than that, the synths on this track almost sound like they could have been ripped from a Deadmau5 song. A lot of it seems to sound a little bit like Fourware from Deadmau5's last album, which of course I like that part, but like I said, the guitars for me are really just killing this track, and of course tracks like this and the second track on the EP, Data, though, are really serving as interludes between some really solid moments on the EP for me, which didn't absolutely kill the vibe of it for me. Of course, this EP has a really solid start and a really solid end, and as we get to the end, Shadowtask is probably my favorite track that PYLOT has ever done. There's just a lot to love about this. I'm really excited that Monstercat picked this track out as the feature on the EP because it is just amazing. Actually, one of the only vocal tracks that PYLOT has ever done, next to The Place I Once Knew, which was his last release before this EP. Really think he's taking inspiration from Daft Punk with these, and I don't think that's a bad thing at all. Definitely goes back to the roots of this genre a little bit more. Really love how it's a little more uplifting in this case than it was with that track. Really driving this track straight to the finish line. Strangely enough, this track is the only one on the EP that actually features a drop, which made the rest of the EP really cool. The fact that it doesn't need to be fueled by these drops, and if Monstercat can release something like this, I'm really excited about the future of their releases, just because they're really branching out into the different veins of things. But Shadowtask is my favorite on this EP, and it does have a drop, and I feel like the synth on this one, the synths, I should say, really drive this one. Shadowtask is purely euphoric. It's probably the most energetic song that PYLOT has ever done in his catalog. On top of that, the track's melody is absolutely infectious and easily one of my favorite features about this track and about the whole EP. There's not a whole lot else I can say about this EP. If you really like that 80s influenced synthwave sound, I think you're going to have a good time with this EP. Like I said, there are a couple moments that I feel like were duds in terms of they could have really done a lot more, especially on Data. I really don't see the purpose for Clova, but I honestly didn't hate a single song on this EP. I thought it was really solid. Like I said, PYLOT's best work to date. Definitely go check this one out. As always, I have the Spotify link in the description, and in terms of a rating, I'm probably going to go for a solid 7, which is something I never saw myself giving PYLOT. This EP came completely out of the blue. I'm so glad it did. It really caught me off guard, and I can definitely say I am currently a fan of PYLOT. If you want to go check this one out, as always, I have that link. And before I forget, I did a collaboration with MC Reviews and Monstercat News. It's a podcast, and it's over on the MC Reviews channel, and I'll be linking that in the end card so you guys can go check it out. It's really cool to get into these collaborations, and I'm definitely going to be doing a lot more this year, so look forward to them. Listen to this EP if you like, and if you have already, which I assume a lot of you that are watching this have, because PYLOT's a pretty unknown name outside of the Monstercat community, so I'd be really surprised if anyone that hasn't listened to it yet was watching this review. But if you have listened to it, let me know what you think down in the comment section below, and if you liked it as much as I did. I'm Landon Remixes. I hope you guys enjoyed this, and I'll see you later. Peace.
That's why they call it cream cheese.
Oh, frick.
Ow.